travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin Lore Podcast. Last week, we talked about our itty-bitty baby Archon, but also the wisest of them all, Nahida. This week, we're heading to the Nation of Justice as we discuss the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy.
Are you looking for a research project? Want to confirm our results? Well, head on over to our website, talesofteyvat.com, where Tiff has compiled our data for each episode into dedicated pages for your quite nerdy perusal.
While you're on our site, check out our past episodes and seasons, artist spotlights from the community for every topic, and some other goodies.
Finally, feel free to email Albedo at talesoftevatpod@gmail.com to let his little chalk face know what you thought of this week's episode and what topics you'd like to see in the future. Additionally, travelers can feel free to give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts, or check out our Ko-fi shop where you could buy us a cup of coffee or buy some of our merch. All proceeds from the Ko-fi shop go to making sure the podcast runs as smoothly as it can, paying for things like our editing softwares, web hosting, and maybe some caffeine for the late night researching. And apparently in Fontaine, they're doing a lot of late night researching. Because not only do you have the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy, you also have the Institute of Natural Philosophy, and you have the Narzissenkreuz group, who is also doing some shit. So there's a lot of for a nation that apparently isn't all about wisdom, they have a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, they're very research oriented.
So we have the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy, which is a really, really long name, in my opinion.
Yeah, it hardly fits on the map.
Yeah, it hardly fit on my paper. There's not a good acronym for it. It's FRICVA. Who wants that? Fricke?
Fricka.
Frida. So yeah, it's not great.
Luckily, most people just call it the Fontaine Research Institute.
Or the Institute, which is a little oh, you're going to the Institute? Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you okay? You need me to call someone. But one thing that's really interesting about the Research Institute that we're talking about today is that it's dedicated to studying machines and energy, which if you didn't get that from kinetic energy, get out. No, I'm joking. But also, it's very clear that they aren't in charge of the people in there. You know, they're not trying to educate their researchers. Yeah. They're not trying to make them better people. And most importantly, you are not getting a diploma from this institution.
No, they are not the academia.
Yeah. You are coming there with your diploma, ripping it up to shreds, and then probably blowing something up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's referred to as the mechanical center of Fontaine. So to me, I kind of think of it as where all the steampunk should have been that we should have got, So they do all the clockwork mech.
Should have been contained right there.
Yeah, it's they blew up the steampunk before we got there.
I was gonna say it was there, but then poof, and it wasn't even Clee's fault or Brandon's.
Yeah, believe it or not. But also one of its main purposes, and I thought this is interesting, is that they were really trying to find a solution for the flood prophecy in Fontaine.
Yeah.
And so one of the big resources that they were using in all of their research and experiments was archium, which is that lovely substance that helps them to attempt defying gravity.
Oh, okay, Elphaba.
You, the Wicked soundtrack.
I was just going to start singing it. Gravity.
But also, if you guys remember the fucking domain puzzle thing we had to do with the archium, I wanted to die.
When you had to run through it?
Yeah, it was the worst puzzle I think I've ever done in my life. Worse than any 1,000-piece Disney puzzle. It was terrible. It was oh, there's a thing over here and you have to run after it. And fuck that. I hated it.
If you're not remembering which one that is, it's when you're running through all the greenish and yellow goopy stuff. Solid goop, not goop.
It's not Carl?
It's not Carter. Nope. Which I realized we called him Carl. We've decided that his name is Carl. His name is actually Carter.
Who's Carl then?
Carl Ingold?
Yes.
Oh.
Carl was another name, but we just decided
Yeah.
that Carter Carter's nickname was Carl.
Yeah,
Close enough.
Yeah, he's our BFF. It's fine.
it's hard to keep track.
He's Goop. He doesn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading a little bit about Carter
Oh,
the other day, and his story is so sad.
It really is. Did you go visit him though while you were reading about him?
I didn't go
Oh.
visit him. I felt like it would be too heartbreaking.
it's okay. Just all you have to do is look at a gnosis, and you'll see him right there.
Yeah, just spilling out of the edges.
It's just a
Like,
pile of goop in a
dripping.
hallway.
Brandon, you're really starting to embrace the Goop. Gwyneth would be proud.
I'm trying. I'm adapting.
Total side note about Gwyneth, with Gwyneth and her Goop. I don't know if everyone heard about the Coldplay concert.
It's who hasn't?
But long story short, a guy who's the CEO of a place called Astronomer was caught cheating on live PD, it felt like, but at a Coldplay concert. And did you see that he hired Gwyneth Paltrow to make like their like PR statement?
Yeah.
And she's the ex-wife of like the lead singer of Coldplay.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah. She's the temporary spokesperson.
Yeah, they made her say temporary, which is even better. So Goop is succeeding, Brandon. I'm glad you're finally on the trail.
Didn't his wife consciously uncouple from him?
Yes. Yes. It's been a lot.
Oh, Gwyneth.
But you might be asking yourself, back to our Fontaine Research Institute, if their primary purpose was to stop the flood and the flood has been stopped, what the fuck are they doing now? Especially knowing that a lot of it has exploded, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Oh, I think now they're just making Fonta.
I was gonna say they're just concerned about Fonta. Fuck everything else. It's all about the vending machines and the Fonta.
Yeah.
And Fonta is soda in Fontaine. Well, according to Salsa, who is the best NPC of the whole fucking game, she says, quote unquote, that the central laboratory ruins in the sky have been rebuilt and that the Institute is considering launching a ruins tour for outsiders.
Because they need some money.
Yeah, they're pretty broke. And Salsa's giving it up for real. Like she's a for real girl. She doesn't lie. Her parents both work at the Institute. And she has self-diagnosed herself with OCD, but her parents have told her that she should stop reading so much. But she 100% does have OCD.
But she also like gave herself a lot of other stuff too. Hasn't she like self-diagnosed herself with like, the plague?
Yeah, but that's like, that could be a part of her OCD.
Right.
Which I love. I love this girl. I love that her name is Salsa.
Yeah.
She's literally everything that I could ask for in an NPC. She's brilliant beyond her years. And I love her.
She is really cute.
We should adopt her. She's like half an orphan. Her parents are never around.
I mean, Traveler kind of did.
We hung out with her quite a bit.
Before we jump too far into the Research Institute, we just wanted to review a few of the other groups that are around at this time that might be important and you might get confused or mix them together because like we said, there's a lot of groups in Fontaine. The first is the Narzissenkreuz Institute.
They were. I think the Institute's the only one that's still like alive and kicking. But at one point there were multiples.
Yeah, I mean some of them are like hidden. Like the Marchese hunters are kind of still a thing.
The phantoms.
Yeah. But anyway, so you have the Narzissenkreuz Institute, which we do have an entire episode on the saga that entails their lives and their deaths. So if you want to check that out, it's episode 65. But generally speaking, this was an organization that raised orphans.
Like literally.
Yay!
There literally was a place for orphans in this entire country.
Yeah, and that's probably why the Knave came back.
And then they closed it.
Now, this orphanage also was for pseudo-orphans, aka people whose parents weren't around because they were in jail. So they took care of all the youth. And you might remember a little bit about Director Lyris and Vice Director Basil Elton, which we fought over if it was Basil or Basil in our episode about it.
It's Basil.
They were in charge, and we actually got a really great group of kids who go on to be pretty important people in Fontaine's history. And one of them is actually the founder of the Fontaine Research Institute, Alain Guillotin. Alain was adopted by Emmanuel Guillotin, who was a member of the Narzissenkreuz Institute. And he was adopted alongside Marianne, who you might remember as the person whose mind and memories and kind of essence was absorbed by an oceanid that also went by Marianne in the future.
Not confusing at all.
And she was also she was Lyris too.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
But more importantly, Marianne had a dog, Seymour, that Alain made for her. He was an inventor, as most of them were, and he made her companion dog to watch out for her. And there was a whole quest with another cute Malzine and Seymour, the dog with a camera face.
Alain was involved in everything back
Literally
then.
everything.
He was one of the orphans of the Narzissenkreuz. Then when that went away, a bunch of them joined the Institute of Natural Philosophy, and he was in that. And then when Jacob and Renee started their evil shenanigans, he left at some point, founded the Fontaine Research Institute, but then he also became a Marechaussee hunter. He did everything.
He did everything. He was a multifaceted man.
Was he part of the Narzissenkreuz Ordo? Like, did he ever get pulled into the evil side of Jacob?
It
No.
seems like he was a good soul.
Yeah, I think they were in the Institute of Natural Philosophy together.
Mhm.
And then when Jacob and Renee started doing their shenanigans, that's when they had their big falling out, and he and Marianne left. And then they created their underground Narzissenkreuz Ordo thing. They were basically doing that under the surface of the Institute of Natural Philosophy, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. And so you guys can definitely listen in a little bit more about the Narzissenkreuz Institute again in episode 65. But the institute ends up disbanding after Lyris and Basil go missing / die during the cataclysm, doing various things. And this is actually underwater now, where the Narzissenkreuz Institute was. It's actually where you first meet Marianne, the little oceanid underwater. It's like Atlantis. As Brandon and Tiff mentioned, Alain was also involved in the Institute of Natural Philosophy, which was led by Dwight Lasker. Not much is really known about Dwight, except that his name was Dwight. And then he existed 500 to 400 years ago, again, right before and after the cataclysm. He was not the founder of the Institute of Natural Philosophy, but he was the leader at the time of the cataclysm. And he did decide to close it during and after the cataclysm for safety reasons. He didn't want, like, kids to run into battle, basically. And through this, as Brandon mentioned, the Narzissenkreuz Ordo came from, which was basically Renee and Jacob's underground doomsday project, where they're like, we're going to be in the Institute of Natural Philosophy, but we're going to do bad things and turn our friend Carter into Goop and then call him Carl.
Then we legally changed his name to Carl.
Yeah.
And then no one ever wondered where Carter was ever again, as we bottled his goop and drank it. So that we could one day become Abyss Lectors.
Cheers.
Cheers. And we do talk a little bit more about that again in episode 65 as well, just because we do talk a lot about Renee in that episode. And last but not least, another group that was around at the time of the founding of the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy is the Marechaussee Hunters. Originally, they were just Melazines who were special secret agent spies for Nouvellette. And apparently, as we mentioned in our episode about the Melazines, I don't know what number that is, I didn't prepare that one, but we'll link it on the website. They have really powerful eyes, and they're very, like, perceptive. So they can be like, you're fucking lying. And you are. But no human would know, just the Melazines. The Marechaussee Hunters were a group that basically hunted monsters, and they had a special sword, like, battle technique that they used, and it's very similar to, you know, what we have with the Gokuden in Inazuma. But the Narzissenkreuz Hunters, as far as I'm aware, are still a thing, but they now have some humans, such as Clorinde, involved in them as well. So those groups were all existing at the same time that Alain was like, you know what? I'm going to be the founder of this research institute, because I don't have enough going on as is. Burnout was approaching.
Yeah, they were all very curious, and they were all inventing, and, you know, like, they were a group of, you know, They weren't just trying to skate by. Like they actually had a lot of like drive and things like that. So I think it was important for him to create it because he needed an outlet and he wanted to do things better for the people. Like he was looking for humane things that he could affect the people of Fontaine, not only also, the prophecy and try and make sure people don't die, but, he was kind of looked at as somebody who was trying to better the lives of the people.
Yeah, and don't forget the Fontaine Research Institute, they're responsible for creating all of the clockwork mecha in Fontaine.
Mm-hmm.
So they really did create something that benefited Fontaine for many, many years, which is interesting because I feel like this is one of the few fictional works where like the robots came and they actually just helped.
Yeah, no, not normal.
The only ones that went a little wackadoodle are the fish. The mech fish. They went a little crazy and started killing the other fish when they were supposed to just be cleaning things up. They're the only ones. They had their own apocalypse.
They're basically Roombas of the sea.
Yeah, but they took their job a little too seriously.
As does the Roomba. Like the Roomba really thinks that it's like a vacuum to the gods.
When it's
Trying
like
to vacuum
chasing
up
your
your
cat
cat.
across
Yeah.
the house. Yeah.
But you mentioned the inventions. And so I just want to take a second to say that there are a lot of inventions done from the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy that still impact Fontaine to this day, as we've mentioned. Alain specifically developed the clockwork mechanisms and the kinetic cores, where it's unsure who developed the mecha fish, which also, on top of the fact that they are vacuuming up the fish, it makes them very unpopular with the Fishing Association. Like the Research Institute is not well liked by them. They're like, stop taking our fish, you bitch. But they're also responsible for inventing the prototype cow Braquette.
Breguet.
Breguet.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's actually a Swiss watch company.
Oh. Well, that's an evil fucking bitch because it's literally the Risley boss fight that you have to do.
The experimental field generator gravity boss, right?
Yes, this is the prototype cow Breguet is its legal name.
Breguet.
Breguet. Whatever. It's its legal name, and it was invented by this guy named Edwin. And apparently the whole point of this was that it was going to counteract gravity so that if one day the flood did happen, they would just lift Fontaine into the sky like Celestia. Which, like, kind of feels like you're breaking one of the academia's, like, main, like, cardinal sins, of, like, one shall not, like, try to break into Celestia. Isn't that something, like...
Yeah, well, I mean, they're already up on a pedestal, so you gotta wonder, did they actually already start working on this? Is this why it's a trifle dish?
Oh, right. That's a good point.
Fontaine is a trifle dish on its little pedestal.
But they were... up like they had
that was like that before. I'm just maybe the Archeum that's been in there is actually one of the reasons why they have large cliffs. It doesn't explain the fact that water doesn't spill off the edge of every single surface. I'm going very off topic here. I get very sucked into the physics of Fontaine and how it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It drives me wild.
The waterfall makes sense. They just didn't make sense when it flooded. It's a waterfall along a whole barrier. It's like it's Niagara Falls.
Fontaine started to flood, and Risley had to use his fancy ass airship boat, and people were starting to drown. Why didn't the water, why wasn't the rest of Teyvat underwater?
Because that was a special event physics. Things change during a world event.
Yeah, they have like a fucking wall of glass around their entire being, so this way their water doesn't go flying off the edge.
But on a normal day, their waterfalls make sense.
The one waterfall. The rest of it, where's the water going?
It's Niagara Falls. Yes, that is literally the way Niagara Falls is built.
Well, Niagara Falls that's because everything else is down. Like it's going from surface level into this is like the opposite of Niagara Falls. The place is moved up. It's like having the Grand Canyon in the opposite position. It's an Audi instead of an innie.
And there's actually more than one waterfall because Chenyu Vale is at the water in the Yilong Wharf is at a different level than the rest of the sea as well. So it makes sense.
It doesn't.
There's physics to it.
That's okay.
But when the water was flooding, like when it was rising, it seems like It seems like it should have just rolled off the side.
You could have. You can't flood without a wall.
Yeah, that's special event physics, guys.
Maybe it was trying to get to the water cubes in the sky.
Yeah, it was like, let us become research.
And Edwin was like, unlimited.
Well, Edwin's an interesting dude, though. Edwin Eastinghouse.
He has the worst name.
Why do you hate his name?
Eastinghouse?
Well, I figured he was the take on Westinghouse. There's an inventor, George Westinghouse. You know, like the brand Westinghouse? Like he's like a founder of like electric currents or something.
I still don't like it. I literally wrote dumb fucking name as my first bullet about him.
I assumed that he's some kind of reference to, and I don't know. I mean, and the name's different.
I'm
like,
sure he is. Yeah.
Like guillotine. Alain is the dude who made the guillotine, which actually, as a little side thing, the guillotine was actually looked at as a humanitarian way to execute people. It doesn't sound like it, but it did. That was the whole point of it. Like his whole thing was he didn't want people to like suffer bad, like so it's quick and over. So that's why he invented the guillotine. Alain didn't do that though. Alain didn't chop off heads that we know of.
Unless it was a bad guy.
Yeah, I took a really weird little circle there. So.
So the last invention I just wanted to mention that was invented by the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy is just the winglet. Great name, much better than Eastinghouse. And that is the airship that Risley uses that Tiff mentioned during the unexplainable flooding of Fontaine. And, you know, he has like the big claws. We talked about that. But this was actually created by my fave pseudo-lovers, Joru and Lorvine. And Joru actually was originally a researcher for the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy, and he was Edwin's assistant. And like Edwin, he researched archeum and gravimeters. And eventually Risley was like, hey, come work for me. I want to save the world. And he was like, okay, that's kind of what I'm trying to do anyway.
If I'm remembering correctly, didn't Risley used to get his crazy glove upgraded at the Fontaine Research Institute when he was growing up? He would just like take it anytime he got money, he would take it there and pay them to put in some more upgrades for it.
Yeah.
I like that's sort of consistent where he's still working with the Institute now while he's the leader of Meropide.
Yeah, he knows that they're good at their shit and that he can go to them. And then, of course, you know, Giroux's pseudo-girlfriend, as I like to call her, Lorvine, is his assistant, and they're always fighting. And even Risley's, like, giving them eyes. Like, they're together.
Get a room.
Literally. He's like, where's
Get a
my
cell.
husband? Yeah, I got plenty of jail cells now. He has no jail cells, only rooms. It's a humanitarian down there. But back to the Institute, generally speaking, it was founded by Alain 500 to 400 years ago, and they were just trying to solve a prophecy for hundreds of years. And nothing really special went on for quite some time.
They weren't apparently very good at anything.
Well, they were inventing things, just not helpful things.
They just weren't coming up with the prophecy. Someone said, you know, isn't it a little suspicious that all this stuff happened 500 years ago and then nobody did anything about it until we got here? And it's like, it's one of those things that you have to just look over of like, it's the story, just whatever. But when you kind of pull it apart of like, you know, they had 500 years and the prophecy was going to like happen. And it was like somebody like sat on their like homework. They were like, well, I really need to study for that algebra test. But, you know, I think I'm going to do my, you know, my arts and crafts first.
I'm sure that is the case. But like also, they kind of make it sound like they were on the verge of having the solution of defying gravity. And then, you know, there's an explosion. So this sort of wipes everything out that they had been working on.
Yeah, and who's in charge of that explosion? The guy with the dumb fucking name.
Now, did you think when you're finding out all this stuff that dumbass guy died? Because I assumed explosion, he was a part of it. I assumed he was dead.
I did at first. And then as the story kept going, I was like, oh, I bet this motherfucker's still alive.
I thought he was dead until he got fired.
That was one way.
Like, they were like, oh, this bitch isn't dead. He's just lazy and not showing up to work. And so they like fired him because Edwin Eastinghouse, despite the fact that he has a dumb name, was a senior researcher for the Institute.
Yeah, senior technician was his official title.
And he was like kind of in charge.
He was the Archeum project leader.
Yeah, so when this man was assumed dead, Slash just didn't show up to work for a few days, they were like, yeah, fire this bitch. He's lazy. And then the other two took over, Raimondo and Choisiel. Choiseul? They took over. And according to some, they're not doing a great job, but I like them better than stupid Eastinghouse.
But what happened was, Edwin is working on this Archeum project. He, of course, also designs the prototype Cal Brigade, the experimental fuel generator, which used to be a nice machine. But then as he's doing this stuff...
Wait, did you say ice or nice?
Nice.
I thought you said ice machine.
I was like, wait,
machine.
it was a giant ice machine?
Which, like, I was totally
imagine?
into because they definitely, some of these people worked a little bit with Shniznaya and the Fatui. And so in my head, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He made an ice machine with them. Like,
I mean, there's plenty of water around. But yeah, so it used to be a friendly machine. And then something happens where that machine's Archeum core overloaded and it causes an explosion that destroys most of the Fontaine Research Institute's buildings and also sends others up into the sky along with those giant blocks of water, which are called the allogravity condensed water bodies. And so Edwin was like, oh shit. I was in charge of that and it blew up and killed some people and demolished all of our hundreds of years of research. I'm just gonna gather my things
How'd it go over here?
and disappear for a little while.
I mean, if the fact that he went to the Morte region for some reason in my mind makes sense, because like I don't know if I made it like very Lord of the Rings, where I was just like, he went to Mordor. That's what the Morte region is for me.
But yeah, he just like moves into some house and sort of goes into seclusion, but keeps doing his research. He's like, oh, I don't care. I don't care if people died. Like, I don't care if this is dangerous. I'm going to keep on trucking.
Me. Every day.
Like, keep on trucking. Me and my ice machine.
The ice machine then turns evil.
Is he an ice road trucker? Or the Iceman?
Iceman coming.
Murderer.
And so, Edwin disappears, the Institute gathers itself, and these other two, Raimondo and Choiseul, I don't know how to say that. Raimondo is also a senior technician like Edwin, and Choiseul is the administrative officer for the Institute. So they both head the reconstruction project after the explosion. So they're basically trying to put the Institute back together, rebuild, recover the research that they lost, and also to let's maybe not use Archaea since it can blow up.
But that's the fun of it.
I know. Well, Edwin definitely thought so, and so did someone else named Knacker, a senior researcher.
Mm.
And he used to work alongside Edwin, and they were both like Archeum fanatics. They're like, this is fantastic. We're going to figure out how to use this. And so they are very pro Archeum even after the explosion. And Raimondo and Choiseul are like, no, this is not happening. And so that kind of leads to certain researchers within the Institute kind of either going rogue or just becoming very unsatisfied with like the vibe at the Institute.
Which, can we take a quick pause just to say too, that Raimondo and Choiseul, they're both senior. One's a senior technician, one's an administrative officer. But I really want everyone to know that Choiseul has a terrible fucking haircut.
Most importantly,
if
you take anything away from this episode, it's Edwin's name is stupid and Choiseul's haircut is terrible.
And salsa is everything.
Yes.
That's all. I just need to make sure before you went any further.
Those are the three things you need to remember.
That we noted how bad his haircut is.
Is he like, he's like, wow, I have a problem with the hat.
It's worse.
Xavier's hat.
I love Xavier's hat, so therefore it's worse. It's terrible. And he has a mustache that goes with it.
I think the mustache is worse than the hair.
Well, I think it just accentuates how bad the hair is.
Yeah, it definitely does not do the hair any favors.
It's like you tried to like put a sticker on a bad decision. Just saying.
To
Anyway,
distract
sorry.
from it.
Yeah. Choi Sewell is also like very positive about like the Institute. He's like, yeah, now that Edwin's gone, we're doing great.
Oh yeah, he's like, oh, things are great, everything's fine. We're doing great, everyone.
He kind of makes it sound like he killed Edwin. He's like, now that Edwin's gone,
Yeah.
that bitch is out of the way. Ooh.
Oh yeah, doesn't he call Edwin like arrogant or something?
And a fool.
Yeah, the arrogant fool. Meanwhile, Knacker is like, oh, no, you're the fool. But Knacker also didn't like Edwin, so
Why'd you work for him then?
maybe he was just assigned to that office or something. I don't know.
But weren't both Knacker and Edwin getting some money from the Schneznayans too? Like, did they know that they were both getting money?
I know that later on they are, or at least it's like Edwin gets like a benefactor or something, and then Knacker was like thought to be stealing something to sell, possibly.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
Oh, like maybe I just put it together.
detail.
He was trying to sell it to the Schneznayan.
Yeah.
Well, we know that Consini and Lallier, who are both merchants from Shiznaya, financially backed Edwin's research. And Consini is Lallier's boss, so they did it together.
I don't know why I made him Italian, and I just kept calling him Concini.
And I might
I
be
did
very
too.
wrong.
I was
So
thinking Concini.
Concini.
Concini. Because you also have Salsa, who's clearly from Spain.
Yeah.
But also, Knacker, we know there it is suggested that he most likely worked with the Fatui in some shape or form because eventually there's like a hideout that he goes to, and Brandon's definitely on the track to that hideout. But after all is said and done, if you go to that hideout again, there's a Fatui baddie there.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
it's suggested that maybe they're looking for him or looking for their money or looking for their product. We don't know.
I want my $2.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird Fatui shenanigans going on in the Fontaine Research Institute area. So I definitely think they were interested in like getting their hands on, technological advancements or research or even just data that they could use.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that like the two bad guys would be working with them.
Yeah, I mean, like so much, like when we were in Sumer, well, everywhere in Teyvat, a lot of them are relying on like rune machines and like all sorts of like ancient technologies. It feels like the Fontaine Institute are the only ones who were like, let's make our own.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like they were keeping up with it. They weren't just looking back at historical things, but actually just trying to make stuff moving forward, which is
Yeah.
probably the biggest difference between them and the academia.
Yeah. The academia would be like, don't do that.
Yeah. Some random guy back 3,000 years ago said that you shouldn't hop on one foot. Don't you do it. And somebody does it and the Deschert's pyramid falls apart. I like the idea of Deschert's pyramid just crumbling because somebody's playing hopscotch.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened to Farazan.
Yeah. Didn't even have an episode.
Who? I thought we did. Sorry.
We tried to multiple times.
I know. I feel like I'm always like, actually, Farazan can wait till next season.
Yeah.
It's season 35. We're like, hey, remember that character Farazan?
They've literally like killed her off.
Yeah. That was a good time to talk about her now.
But anyway, Brandon, you were on the way to telling us all this good shit happening. All the good dramas about the spill.
Oh, yeah. So the main World Quest series that sort of revolves around Fontaine Research Institute, it's called the Fontaine Research Institute Chronicles. And it really involves us escorting Knacker back to like the ruins and the water cubes up in the sky and trying to, get these anchor things to make something more stable, blah, blah, blah. We basically end up enabling him to betray us. And he steals some archeum and it causes another explosion. And it's not like a true cutscene, I don't think. But you're like talking to someone back down on, like in the new Fontaine Research Institute area, like Raimondo or someone, and then you see the explosion in the background. And you're like, what the
it's like
fuck?
a still. It's fantastic.
Like we were just trying to take a pic for the gram.
Yeah.
And both of us, like, everyone's eyes go wide.
You're like,
I
Yeah.
can't turn around. I'm afraid to look and see what the fuck is happening.
So now Knacker steals Archeum. He like overloads something, sabotages it, and it explodes. And then Raimondo's like, that sneaky little Knacker person like is trying to steal things to get rich. And so then it becomes the whole quest sort of shifts into tracking down Knacker. Like, where is Knacker? He stole, this Archeum. We have to stop him. And so we go through all these shenanigans to find him, basically. And we do eventually track him down. Along the way, we also discover Edwin. And we find out that Edwin is still alive.
But still fired.
He's still fired. He's still doing his own research on Archeum. And eventually we capture both of them, Edwin and Knacker, and they get, arrested and sent to Maripede. And then they have like nasty dialogue towards us if you go talk to them in Maripede.
Yeah, they're so rude. I'm like, first off, it's not my fault you exploded shit. No one told you to do that.
I do kind of like that they're both like, you're like, fuck all you guys. You're all idiots. We should be using Archeum. Oh, but that boat is pretty cool. They did a good job with that. I do like that.
I like how Edwin like shows up to prison and is like, my research assistant is here. What'd he get in trouble for? And he's like, he built the boat that saved part of Fontaine with my research? Humbling.
What the fuck?
If anyone's ever had a more humbling moment, it's that man.
Yeah. Even though he's still an asshole about it.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever be fully humbled. I mean, he has a dumb name and he thinks that he's right.
Yeah. Just living in Delulu land. But so that's basically like the Cliff Notes version of that whole World Quest series.
The most important part is that we got a title out of it. Or Traveler got the title.
Oh, yeah.
And Paimon.
And Paimon.
A new honorary title to add to the list.
Yes, because we didn't have enough. We are called the Honorary Senior Researcher. And Paimon is known as the assistant to the Honorary Senior Researcher. Which just in my head makes me always think of The Office.
Yeah.
Where Dwight, like Michael refuses to call Dwight the assistant manager. He's like, you're the assistant to the manager. You're the assistant to the regional manager.
Dwight Schrute, not to be confused with Dwight Lasker.
Yeah. Did you imagine that's who he was named after?
It just feels like, when you get like an honorary doctorate from a college because you're famous.
Yeah.
Like that's what it felt like. And it happens everywhere to us.
Yeah, we're an honorary everything. Honorary savior. I think Natlon's the first place that they're like, you know what, you're just our savior. We're not going to put honorary in front of it. We're just going to say that you are the bomb.
We're going to paint shrines for you.
Mm-hmm.
They like to keep it simple over there.
I love all the paintings you run into of us all over the place of Natlon.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, look at us.
I'm like, what's that? Why am I here? Now, when you guys were researching for this episode, did you have the same moment I did where you're like, once you have all the names settled, this was a lot easier to understand than I thought.
Definitely. It's because they're so, like, all the NPCs talk way too much, which it's kind of a nice touch because it's like, yeah, of course you work here. Because it's like they will go into great detail about like little things and they very much are like nerds.
Yeah, they're
that
academics.
are talking about their jobs, Yeah.
And they're happy with their jobs. It's something they enjoy.
Yeah. And they are very opinionated too. Like they all like have their own opinions about how things should be going or which department is doing which by the way, the known departments of the Fontaine, it's the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy in engineering. That's a mouthful right there. And then it's like anything involved in the Fontaine Research Institute is also just extremely wordy. Like the known departments are Advanced Artifice Technology Research and Development Department, the Department of Statistics and Mathematics, and the Natural Ecological Environment Monitoring Department. So it's like everything has a long title. All of the workers talk a lot and over explain. So I think when you're playing through that area, you're like, oh, this looks so complicated.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, when you break it down, it's not.
And when you say that they're speaking, they're actually not. You're reading.
Yes, it is unvoiced. So
Mhm.
it's easy to kind of gloss over what you're.
And now, like we said before, all they care about and want to talk to us about is Fonta.
It's Fonta, yes.
Anytime you go to their new research area, they are coming up with the new flavor of Fonta.
So I was looking at like the quests that are available in the Fontaine Research Institute area, and I was reading this one called "Refreshing Fonta: A Font of Refreshment." And I was reading the dialogue of it. I'm like, damn, this is a long world quest. This is so much dialogue. And then I look and I realize it's a commission.
Yeah.
Which makes it worse.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the one where you're helping, what's his name, Heinrich of the Fonta department recover like his old research notes that got blown away during the explosion.
Yes.
And then there's another one where you're just doing like taste tests of his experimental Fonta drinks.
Because they made Fonta and then they made a vending machine too, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to give Paimon a vending machine for her juice.
Yeah.
How do I get involved with this IRL? I would like to be a Fonta taster.
You could be a
too.
Fanta taster. Fanta.
Will they hire me, you think?
Totally, 100%.
You don't really see the Fanta commercials anymore, do you? With all like the different colors.
If you didn't get in trouble for it, you could just buy a bunch of Fanta and then change the A to an O and go sell it at a convention.
Oh my God, don't put thoughts in my head.
That'd be cute. I would buy a Fonta.
Another thing too that I wanted to bring up, which I thought was interesting, was you had another moment in this world quest where you had to make a decision,
Oh, yeah.
where you had to decide whether or not to lie to the NPC crony, who has no other information really about her, but you have to decide whether or not you're going to tell her the truth about the explosion that Knacker caused.
Yeah. She's like the reporter, right? So she's basically doing a story of like, is the Fontaine Research Institute safe? Should we be worried about what they're up to? And so Raimondo is kind of like, yeah, everything's fine. And he wants to cover, you could help him cover up what's going on just as like a peak to make him look like he's doing his job well and to like protect the reputation of the Institute.
I don't remember what I did. I'm assuming I covered it up.
I don't either. I don't remember which one I picked. I feel like I liked Raimondo, so I might have covered it up. But my gut reaction would be to, tell the truth. But I feel like I, at that point, kind of liked the NPC, so I might have sided with him.
He's like the most likable character in all of this, except aside from Elaine.
Yeah, the ghost of Elaine.
We also, Brandon, did you want to mention who your fave is? Who is in this institute?
Xavier, aka Dottore.
No, just Xavier.
He was a researcher in the same lab as another researcher named Augustus Lovelace, who you meet in Sumeru as part of the world quest Recollections of a Fontanian. And I read that world quest dialogue, and it has some really interesting stuff about Xavier, you guys.
Yeah, does it confirm Dottore?
No, but I feel like it's adding fuel to my fire, to like my theory. But so let me share it with you and you tell me what you think. Because I might just be like
obsessed.
Yes. So this is the Recollections of a Fontanian world quest, but then part of it's also if you mind read him as Nahida. And he says, ugh, has Xavier fallen under the spell of Inazuma? I'm certain the Yashiro Commission knows nothing about films anyway. Couldn't he just slap together something for them and get out of there? And then later he tells us Don't let my troubles spoil your mood. They have nothing to do with you. Come on, please hurry and snap a photo for me because we're helping him take pictures to send to Xavier because he's like trying to get Xavier out of Inazuma. He says, once Xavier sees the beauty of Sumeru, there's no way he'll stay in Inazuma. And so we ask him how he knows Xavier, and he says, as you must be well aware, Xavier is a researcher from the Fontaine Research Institute. We used to work in the same laboratory, and he once gave me quite a bit of help. He insisted on shooting a film and being the director. That wasn't a very popular idea in Fontaine Research Institute at the time. Even after being assigned to other projects, he still continued shooting documentary films in the name of recording their research process. Just like that, he went back and forth between projects and the laboratory until he was finally sent to Inazuma. He's a very resourceful person. I'm certain that had he been born in the past, when funding was abundant and more fields of research were accepted, or been born in a brighter future, he would have accomplished great things. So to me, that's interesting. He's talking about the past and the future. And then he says, I'm off to write to Xavier. If he still won't come to Sumeru, then I might as well go back to Fontaine. So I just think it's interesting that even in this unrelated world quest in Sumeru, we're still getting all of this Xavier lore.
Yeah, why?
Like, why is Xavier so important? And it's again, it's like focusing on the fact that he won't leave Inazuma after going there, you know, like his Fontainian friends and colleagues are like, why is he still there?
And then he comes back and then he disappears again. So like he comes to Fontaine for the film festival and then he's like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
Never to be seen. Where is he? Like I thought after that he might pop up on Petrichor, you know, but he hasn't.
I know. Hopefully we'll get some more about him soon. I feel like we will. Another thing about Augustus is the reason he left Fontaine after, I'm assuming this was after Xavier was sent to Inazuma, but he is not happy with Raimondo or Choiseul.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he kind of talks about how like the spirit of research has been in free fall since they took over the reconstruction project. So he's definitely like one of the people that's kind of unhappy with the direction that the Institute's going in. And I think preferred it when they were doing like more groundbreaking research.
Which, are we assuming that's because of funding that they're not doing that? Or do we as the player think it's truly because they're just shitty leaders?
I think it's more they're being very conservative. I think they even use that word that like the way he's leading is very conservative, but it's because they have this PR nightmare where no one in Fontaine trusts the Institute anymore. And they're having to do damage control to convince the public that they're not a threat because they had this explosion that, you know, was really dangerous and killed people.
And there's giant floating cubes in the sky that nobody knows if they're just going to fucking fall out of the sky and splash down.
Exactly.
That's some hard PR to get around.
Honestly, they should just be happy that Elaine back in the day didn't cheat on his wife at a Coldplay concert because they'd have even more to deal with.
Wait, you're telling me that Elaine had time to date and get married?
Oh, absolutely. Elaine was a jack of all trades.
Elaine could do anything. If only we had Elaine now.
Or Elaine actually edits this podcast.
Is it really Elaine that's been picking up the mail?
No, that's Albedo. I make sure Albedo is doing it because it allows me to see him every day. Like, hey, boo, thanks for the mail.
Does he give you special delivery?
He gives me a hug, usually.
Are you worried that Kirara is going to start flirting with him?
No.
We're going to have a whole scandal. They're going to be the ones at the Coldplay concert.
Oh my god, no.
Kirara and Albedo up in the stands.
And then Kaya just shows up with a sword. He's like, back away, Kirara. But anyway, I digress. Speaking of mail, Kirara is now confused as fuck.
She's like, you talking about me? What?
She's like, I already gave Albedo your questions for the day, but now I'm thinking of taking them back. So before she does, I think it's time we jump into our mail.
Sounds cute.
So I do have a question for you guys that I didn't actually give you ahead of time because I couldn't find the person who asked. So I apologize to this person. But somebody asked, when did we first start talking about the twink tank?
The twink tank. It was when we were talking about Kaveh.
It was, right?
working on the second level of the bar.
That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure.
And then somehow we made it to put that he was doing it in Port Ormos.
Oh, yeah, because he designed the lighthouse in Port Ormos.
Yes, he designed the lighthouse in Port Ormos too. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he designed the second floor of the tavern in Sumeru City.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, person, I'm so sorry, traveler. I could not find your message, but I remembered it, and I wanted you to have an answer. So that is your answer. Thank you, anonymous. Unintentional anonymous.
Thank you for the question of our own lore.
Yeah, I was like,
The pod
what?
lore.
So meta.
We have lore. It's just
We
waiting
do.
to be explored. Ask me anything. I'm ready. So our first non-anonymous, because Amanda has a bad memory question, comes from Areguma, and they said, what is your favorite summer event and your favorite summer event outfit?
Well, I was very clear, I think, like a few episodes ago, where I stopped what you guys were talking about. Was like, it wasn't Simulanka that was your favorite. Because that took over his mind. So Simulanka was my favorite summer event, but my favorite summer outfit, which I do not have, but I think Babs is freaking adorable. Although in real life, I do have a tiny little ducky purse that Beans gave me.
I did that.
Yeah.
My favorite summer event is the only one that I haven't played, which is the Midsummer Island Adventure. It's the very first Golden Apple Archipelago event. I've watched it many times. I think in the same episode that Tiff just referenced, I talked about how much I liked it. Out of the ones I've played, however, I will say that it's the other Archipelago one where we get to talk with Kazuha, and Venti gives us the Dodoko phone for the first time. It's just a great group of people, and it's a lot of fun. And my favorite summer skin is Cleese. It's so cute. She's so adorable. My second one, though, and I feel like it's cheating because it's the newest, I love Bennett's. Very happy with Bennett's.
How'd you not give Kaya his pirate? I thought you would have been all about that.
I love Kaya's pirate outfit, and I do love that it's a great reference back to his hangout. If anyone remembers, in Sumeru, he is compares himself not to a pirate, but to like a character similar to like a land pirate. And I do like it, but if I don't know, I want something more Kaya. You know, that's very like Kaya in a costume. And we're like, I feel like even though Klee's outfit is also a costume, it's very much related back to who she is. Her mother is a witch and all that jazz, and it blends in, I think, more with who she is as a person. Sorry, Kaya. I love you anyway. Give Albedo a summer skin.
You both answered like my two favorite ones. I'm very like torn between the two as far as which one is my favorite. I do think Simulanka was like the most exciting or like the best story, but I have a fondness for the original summer event, which I did get to play. And I remember how exciting that was when I was playing it because there was no blueprint for a summer event yet. Like you didn't know what to expect from that event. And it also felt really cool to be getting like all this weird Alice lore for the first time.
Yeah.
And it also did something that they don't do. They do it very well when they do it, but they don't do it as often as I think we would prefer, which is they really showed a lot of the characters for the first time kind of coming together and like bonding outside of like the main storyline.
Yeah.
So I thought it was lovely to see like the Mondstadt crew kind of having like a family vacation in a way. And my favorite outfit, I'm probably going to go with Jean's.
Yeah, it is cute.
Yeah, I really like hers.
And Jean says like the good lore, because isn't it like Barbara and Lisa put it together for her? But like D-Luke maybe paid for it? Like,
oh, I don't remember the lore behind it, but that would be cool. I just like the way it looks.
I'm like, yeah, it has great lore.
And it's like, it's cute. It just looks cute. I actually have that on my Jean at all times, so she's always wearing it.
So it says, the acting grandmaster's life runs like the gears of a machine, driven by the great force of heavy responsibility, constantly being ground down by work.
I heard that the original idea was Barbara's and that she and Lisa searched every store before deciding on the most suitable design. then Kaya was somehow able to convince D-Loop to hire craftsmen to make some modifications. With fabric chosen by Amber out of her experience with making Baron bunnies to render it comfortable with relatively inexpensive. And with gems for decoration picked from Albedo and Clee's collections, the tailoring was then overseen by Noelle. So everyone in Mondstadt helped out with that outfit.
Because they love her. But like somehow Kaya convinced D-Luke. He was like, your girlfriend needs this.
Yeah.
Like, come figure it out, bro.
And we both want to see her in it.
Yeah, literally. Awesome. Well, thank you, Ariguma, for the question. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Our next message is a follow-up. If anyone remembers many, many moons ago, we read a message from Aziram. And Aziram wanted to know why the fuck Tiff didn't like Goru. Was much more polite than I was just now, but that was the gist of it. And Aziram said, I didn't think that my little joke mail to Tiff would have been so well received. I read it back after sending it thinking, oh, this actually sucks, and they're going to tell Kirara to throw it out. But I'm glad that you guys appreciated it. The fact that since I sent it, you've also all made reference to it in all the episodes makes me feel real special, so thank you a ton.
Can I just stop you for a moment there?
Yeah.
Of course, I love that. And I truly do love the fact that you've sent it in and that is become a thing now too. We love hearing from all you guys and love when you guys interact with us too. Like it's it's easy for us to forget as three friends sitting talking that we're actually talking to other people too. So it becomes like, like that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So Aziram continues and said, so I guess this is kind of a continuation. More so just extra stuff after listening to your most recent episodes. Brandon, let me join you on your quest to make Tiff appreciate Goru more. Let me be your brother in arms.
We're going to convert her, Aziram.
I think with our combined effort, we can make it happen. Tiff, I have to ask because I am super curious. Why do you hate Goru so much? I don't think it was previously brought up. If it was, my apologies for forgetting. Did he say or do something that you didn't like? Is it his design? Or did you just look at him and immediately think, this guy sucks, without much of a rhyme or reason? I gotta know what you actually have against him and where the hate comes from. I'll pause, Tiff, if you want to, if you want to say something.
I have to say, it is just simply, I as soon as I saw him, I was like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the last one. One. This guy sucks.
This guy sucks. I thought he was like kind of just like bleh. And I'm like, he's so scrawny, and he's supposed to be some big general, and not meaning that they like what he looks like means he can't be a big general, but I felt like he was just so like, I don't know, blah to me, I guess. And then the more I found out about his personality, I think I disliked him more.
Meanwhile, Goru has like the sweetest personality and he's like such a fucking sweetheart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck that guy. The more he talks, the more I like it just feeds into it. The more I have to deal with him.
It's the tail, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm like, stand up to Yaimiko.
Would you stand up to Yaimiko?
Oh, I'd stand up to Yaimiko.
Oh. I wouldn't. So Aziram does continue and says, Fiends, I actually don't really have anything to say. At least anything Goru related. I just didn't want to leave you out. And that's all I have for now. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, Aziram. Yes, my there's also some other like IRL lore of my hate. I very much hate Bjork. I want to punch her in the face. If you don't know who Bjork is, you might remember her as the craziest Icelandic singer who wore a goose dress to like, I don't know, I think it was like the MTV Movie Awards, Music Awards or something. Swan. It was a fucking duck.
And you might remember, if you don't remember Bjork herself, you might remember Katya playing Bjork on Drag Race in the Snatch Games, which was everything I could have ever wanted.
It was good. That was good.
Or have you seen Winona Ryder playing Bjork on Jeopardy on SNL?
Oh my God, no, I gotta see that.
It is so funny. She's like, bing, bang, boom. Music is everywhere. It's so funny.
But anyway, sorry, Tiff, you hate Bjork.
Yeah, and I won't go into the specifics of it, but there is a legend amongst my friends that I hate Prince, and I may have been involved in his death.
And I'm the serial killer.
You know how many text messages I got when that man died? That was like, Tiff, did you? People who weren't even involved in the original gag of it. Like my friends from like college who literally all texting me were like, did you kill Prince? I fucking killed Prince. I was horrified by a shrine to Prince in Brooklyn.
Now I'm picturing like Tiff's reaction if they ever killed Goro in this game.
Oh
She'd
my God,
be
she'd throw a
like
party.
dancing across her apartment.
like, yay. But I'd be
She'd
slightly
throw a
upset for a
party.
moment when I realized like that Miss Hina is gone.
Miss Hina will live on in our hearts.
Like, oh, you need to kill somebody, Genshin? Here, take Goro.
Fine. Well, would you like to know of a Prince fact I read the other day that I cannot necessarily confirm is true, but it's something I read and I'd like to believe it was true. Brandon, would you like to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, for those who don't know, Prince was on an episode of New Girl back in the day, and I'm a big New Girl fan. And basically, the gist of it was that somehow or another, Nick and Jess ended up at a party with Prince, and they were both huge Prince fans, and it was wild for them. So the day of filming, when Prince got to set, there were a lot of other celebrities on set, including like a Kardashian and stuff like that. And apparently he went up to like the producers or the directors, and he was like, what the fuck are they doing here? He was like, well, you know, we're trying to make it realistic because we're, you know, a celebrity party. And he goes, I would never invite them to a party. And so they kicked them off set, and they're not in the episode.
I believe it.
Wow.
And I love that he was like, I am keeping this fake party authentic to me. Zoe Deschanel can come.
Yeah.
But Kim Kardashian cannot.
Sinead O'Connor has the craziest story about Prince in her memoir that came out like shortly before she died. And it is fucking crazy. It involves him like chasing her down the street, and she's like running for her life. It's like insane. I don't know how much of it I believe is the full truth, but it's very shocking. So if anyone is thinking about reading the Sinead O'Connor memoir, highly recommend it, even if it's just for the Prince story.
That being said, that's all the time that we have for today, travelers. If you liked this episode, you can feel free to email Albedo at talestoftevatpod@gmail.com. Let them know what you think of this week's episode and what you'd like to hear in the future. Additionally, you can ask us anything, as Tiff and Brandon mentioned earlier. We would love to chat with y'all and answer your questions on the podcast. So definitely feel free to ask away. You can also join our collaborative Discord server, Shades of Teyvat, by going to bit.ly/Shades of Teyvat. It's all lowercase and no spaces. And you have to be 18 or older to go. And please remember that Kaveh and Adventuring do check your IDs at the door. And God forbid Al Haytham's there. He's just going to kick your ass out. So 18 over, that's it. Don't mess with our bouncers. You can also feel free to follow us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod, or on Twitter, Tales of Teyvat. We're also on Threads and Blue Sky under the same names. And travelers can feel free to check out our Ko-fi, where you can buy us a cup of coffee or a Fonta, if you so please. All the proceeds from our Ko-fi do go to operating the podcast, from paying for softwares that we need to keep it running, to making sure that we are caffeinated throughout the night as we do some deep dives into research and prints. Additionally, on our Ko-fi, we do have a merch shop, so if you're interested in a Tales of Teyvat hoodie, a Twink Tank t-shirt, Dead Friends, Chaotic Paimon, there's a lot of options over there, so definitely check it out. Next week, we're going to be going back Natlin, where we're going to be talking about our adventures with Little One. So get your roly-polies ready and your other names, little ones, for next week's daring adventure. Until then, safe journeys, travelers. We will see you next time.
Bye, wicked nerds.
Make you happy.
Bye.